1 week after the Packers were cited as thinking they could go undefeated, they lose on the road to the Browns 13-10, and I'm here to tell you, Jordan Love just proved why this team can't win the Super Bowl. With this Packers game, I really don't know where to start with Green Bay. This is one of those times, full disclosure, I'm an Eagles fan, so for me, I was very concerned of the Packers, but I had one true hope, because the Packers are scary. They have a really good running back. Their receivers are often hurt. But normally they're very good. Their offensive line looks solid, and that again, that defense might be one of the best defenses in the NFL. However, the hope was that Jordan Love would come out in those big moments in big games, and this wasn't necessarily that, but that he could collapse and throw picks, just like he did last playoffs against the Eagles, throwing 3 interceptions. This game, you kind of saw it. The Browns, they made him play close because Myles Garrett was there, to the point where LaFleur said he had to take out a bunch of plays for Myles Garrett. That's right. He said this to the announcers. He's like, we have packages that we can call with Myles Garrett in the game, and packages that we can call when he's out of the game. That is incredible, and I've never quite heard. I've heard that about Lawrence Taylor, but Myles Garrett definitely earns that kind of respect. And he's that good. He was game-wrecking the game for them a lot of times. So, all that being said, at this point, it was a slower game, a lower scoring game. They're up, though, 10-3. Don't really have to do anything. And despite all of that, Jordan Love things, which is throwing a crucial, unnecessary interception when the Browns couldn't move the ball. They had shown that they couldn't really drive down the field and score. They were on their own 20, but the pass just didn't need to be thrown. Time was ticking away, and they just could have just kept on doing what they were doing. Instead, that interception led to a really short field for the Browns, an immediate touchdown, another Packers not scoring drive, and the Browns winning the game. And Jordan Love, to me, that mistake was one of the biggest reasons they lost the game. I'm not going to say the biggest. I think the biggest was the fact that the Browns defense might be one of the best units, but kind of that they could have been all of that and held you to 10 points, and still we don't think that offense would have seen the light of day. Could have been just a 10-3 game. Obviously, another thing we got to talk about, Rasheed Walker. Before the game, the left tackle throughout the week said that he didn't think that any team could be as good as them, and he thought that the Packers were going to go undefeated. What makes this really hurt is this is a left tackle saying this right before he's going up against Myles Garrett. Dude just needed to calm down and focus, because he was a turnstile against the Browns, and that whole offensive line got their asses kicked. Plain and simple. Now, are most offensive lines going to get their asses kicked against this Browns team, which has spent all the money, all the resources on building that side of the ball, sure, but specifically that unit? Probably. But for you to go out and say that you think your team's going to go undefeated, and then just have Myles Garrett just go by you, and then go by you and another guy on a couple instances, the double team, and then push you out the way to stop a run, not a great sign for Rasheed Walker. LaFleur also, Monday after the loss, he said he didn't like it, and said that it pointed at a lack of focus, and that loss is a big loss. Like I respect the Browns after what they did, but they should have beat the Browns. They're a better team than the Browns, especially when you consider that the Browns are starting Joe Flacco. Like, maybe the rest of the talent is more even. You got a Garrett to a Parsons. The defenses were great, but when you have Jordan Love and they have Joe Flacco, like, you got to win that game, and they didn't when everything else is even, which I think at worst it is. Now, maybe with the Packers injuries, maybe the Browns have slightly better weapons with Judy, but I don't know about that. But it was just, that's going to be the question and the concern for the Packers this season. And I think football fans who kind of know Jordan Love know this. He is willing to throw the ball up at any point. And this game, they reined him in. They told him, no, you can't throw deep bombs, because Myles Garrett's not going to give us the time to throw these passes that you want to throw. Now, when they play the Cowboys next week, Sunday Night Football, are we going to see those passes? I would assume so, because Micah Parsons now plays for your team and not that team, so you don't have to come up with Kenny Clark plays that you can't run with him out there. And it's the Packers defense again all game played great, played outstanding football, pressuring Joe Flacco. Not Junkins couldn't really go anywhere, but toward the end of the game he started getting some rushes. But I mean, it was crazy. Now, one thing I did kind of notice from the game, their cornerbacks grab a lot and they start getting called for it. They do it a lot in the red zone, which I guess is what you want. You don't want them to let up touchdowns, and it kind of helped them keep them off the board. But they are a grabby bunch. But again, no CeeDee Lamb this week, so for them, they just got to take it 1 week at a time now, as we've learned. As I hope, I don't hope they learned it. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep looking at the moon, missing the stars, or whatever the fuck it's called. Because that was a huge loss for them. And when a lot of people, I think, are now starting to consider them Super Bowl champs, getting home field helps with that a lot. Last year, the Chiefs and the Eagles had the first seeds, and they both went to the Super Bowl. So that one seed, having home field advantage, definitely used, especially when you consider teams going up against. The Eagles have a home field advantage. Detroit at home, well, they lost at home last year, but hypothetically, they could have that home field advantage and that division actually bring up Detroit. Now Detroit's 2-1. The Vikings are 2-1, and yes, you have that tiebreaker over Detroit, and yes, the Vikings have a backup, but anything can happen in these games as we've seen. So LaFleur's gotta come in, gotta get things together here. We'll see what they can do with this kind of wide receiver unit. We know that defense is still going to be there, but Jordan Love is going to be the question. Now, I think this is a perfect opportunity. He's going to have a lot of open people down the field, and LaFleur is going to dial them up, and they're going to throw it, and there's going to be dudes open running around. But they're so dependent on it, and they kind of used it so much early in the year. And the Cowboys are so bad at it, you wonder if maybe it could turn the other way, and maybe they could try to make them go underneath more often. I don't know if the Cowboys have the facilities for that, but I guess we'll see. But for the Packers, I don't think this is a death note. I don't think they... I said it, I kind of believe it. I think that's going to be the thing. I think Jordan Love is just barely reckless enough to not win Super Bowl, and you kind of saw it today. Like that was a big loss. I don't think it's a death knell. I think it's the end of their season. But that wasn't what you needed in this situation. You just needed to do nothing and beat the Browns, and instead you lose to Cleveland. That can't happen in your goals for a 1 seed. Now, can other teams fall, stub their toe? Very possible. Very likely. It's a long season, but the Packers have to be ready to seize on those opportunities rather than being ahead like they were all season up to this point.